All right, so you went ahead and picked Zeus as your first god that you're playing in Age of Mythology Retold, and in my opinion, it's about as most straightforward and as any god that you can play in this game. Literally strong military, simple economy, favor generation that basically runs itself, and honestly, it is a breeze. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy all around the board, but it's very straightforward. This is the complete beginner's guide to Zeus. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Age of Mythology Retold content. So Zeus's first major advantage is his hoplites. Not only do the hoplites move 15% faster, they also do 60% extra damage to buildings, which is very important because early on, you really don't have a lot of damage capability for any major buildings. This makes Zeus a major Classic Age threat. Also, to carry on, that infantry bonus does carry over to the other infantry for Zeus, so the Hephaestus and then the Myrmidons. Important with that, Zeus's favor generation is much higher than most other gods, and it ends up making it a lot easier when you're trying to research the texts or just to recruit a number of myth units themselves. So the last pillar for Zeus is that he starts out with extra favor. This means that you can get an extra myth unit early on or research one of the minor god or major god texts that you may have very quickly. And right off the gate, you can kind of see a pattern. Zeus wants you to build infantry, be aggressive, and get as much favor from the temple so that you build more myth units. Honestly, if you're sitting back and banking your resources, this may not be the god for you. So the build order for Zeus is fairly simple. Your opening villagers need to go to the nearest wild hunt and build a granary. That way you can immediately start getting the food straight for them. Those villagers will remain untouched. While that is happening, you are queuing up villagers and the next 2 to 3 are being sent over to the gold mine. Followed by the following 2, so 5 now that we have spawned, will go to gather wood. Ideally, if you can, go ahead and place the drop house near the gold mine as well as the tree lines. That way you can kind of knock 2 birds out with 1 stone and you don't have to spend the extra wood for it. All while this is happening and all of your villagers are being queued, run around with your scout, seeing as much as you can, eyeing up any relics. Relics are very important for Zeus, especially the ones that improve either myth units or heroes, or infantry in that general. Once you have 150 wood and 150 gold, take one of your gold miners and go ahead and build a temple. And then from there, your next focus should be all in on getting the 400 food so that you can move into the Classic Age. Now, what's important to note is that you'll be floating at around like 14 to 15 villagers at this point, and you're going to want to save up to get your first hero. Jason will be used to go around and gather up the relics, but again, the heroes from the Greeks are just very strong. You could also take this opportunity if you have enough food and favor, thanks to Zeus giving you extra favor, and researching Olympian parentage. This gives your heroes 25% more HP, and they regenerate a hit point per second, which is really good. From there, once you're in the Classic Age, you should be pretty well set. First thing, honestly, is going to be the military academy and then getting out your hoplites. And don't be afraid to go ahead and put another 2 to 3 villagers on gathering favor because, again, you will be using a lot of the texts that are going along. But what gods should we choose? Let's go ahead and talk about the minor god choices. So starting out, honestly, for the Classic Age, I recommend Athena for most games. Honestly, she boosts your infantry even further, making them even stronger for Zeus. And then the Bull Minotaur is just incredibly strong. It's a great front line. It disrupts the front line and allows you to just essentially move your way through. And then the Restoration God Power can heal your army as you're fighting. It's 10 for 10 would recommend. Hermes is good if you want the kind of like raid style attacks and if you want to have something backing up your hoplites. However, the Centaur myth unit is fantastic for this, and the Seaside God Power is pretty strong. However, this is all much more micro intensive. My honest opinion, honestly, Athena is going to be your best bet. Moving into the Heroic Age, I like Dionysus mainly because the Hydra myth unit is very strong and it scales very well into the Mythic Age. But then the God Power specifically for Bronze is a phenomenal combo. One of the biggest weaknesses that any kind of infantry has typically is pierce damage. So fighting with a bunch of hoplites who are typically weaker against any kind of ranged units. This is going to be a fantastic 1-2 combo. It makes your army nigh unkillable, and you'll be able to go through. Now, Apollo is not bad by any means. The Underworld Passage lets you basically teleport across the map, and it's really, really good for large maps, but it's kind of like situational. And the Mana Core is very strong, very, very strong, especially if you have 4 or 5 of them, and they can just pelt away with multiple attacks. Honestly, Dionysus, the Hydra, is just very, very strong. You get 2 or 3 kills on that, and it becomes an absolute powerhouse. The Mythic Age, I always like Hera. Honestly, Lightning Storm is just an incredibly strong god power. But then on top of that, Hera buffs the myth units with Monstrous Rage. The Medusa myth unit is very, very strong itself. There's just a lot of strengths to it. Physis can be very good, especially if you want that more economic and we'll say research focused, as they can improve all of the armory upgrades and reduce their cost by 75%. And then the Vault god power is just a constant trickle of food, gold, and wood. Not bad by any means, but I feel like Hera just really works well with Zeus. Now, the major thing that makes or breaks Zeus games really comes down to your infantry micro. Now, the Zeus hoplite speed basically means that you can really be the one choosing engagements, because you can either track down most enemies or fight off and run away if you need to. Now, that doesn't necessarily make you faster than cavalry, but again, a Zeus hoplite against any kind of cavalry, that cavalry is going to have a terrible time. Now, if your army's hobbled and there really isn't anything else for you to do, running away may be the best choice. Now, another aspect that you can use with your hoplites is surrounding your enemies on multiple areas, flanking them, so to speak. Because the hoplites move very fast, they can close the distance against any kind of ranged backline that they may have, that your enemy may have. It's really, really strong. And then on top of that, chasing down retreating units. Most infantry, most range, can escape a Zeus hoplite just because of their speed. There are some notable exceptions, but just know that Zeus's hoplites are pretty quick. Use that speed to your advantage. And then also army composition with the hoplites, mixing in some Toxicities. The hoplites will help tank along with the myth units and the heroes. Toxicities can just pick away at the front line. It's a really good one combo. However, please do not make the mistake of building a 1-to-1 ratio of hoplites and Toxicities. Hoplites are the strength and the damage. Toxicities are good for balancing out units. Use Zeus the way that Zeus was meant to be played, which is heavy infantry. All right, so in mid to late game, the strength of Zeus's favor generation is a really big deal, because you should be able to afford 2 to 3 myth units almost all the damn time. And especially once you get into the Mythic Age and you're able to go through Hera's Monstrous Rage, they become a just powerhouse to deal with. Hydra and hoplites are basically your frontline composition, which works really, really well in this. You can spice in a few bull minotaurs here and there. If the enemy goes heavy myth units, you can of course micro your heroes to target fire them down, which you definitely should be doing, but then also using Bolt to eliminate any kind of ranged myth unit that's causing some problems. And then of course, if the enemy goes heavy cavalry and is looking for that raid style, a couple of hoplites in defense is going to be a phenomenal counter pick. And lastly, when you get into very late game, Medusas and Hydras and fully upgraded hoplites are some of the strongest armies in the game, honestly. Making use of the Monstrous Wrath, it's a really big push. And then of course, Hera's Lightning Storm is just really a 1-2 combo that it's going to be hard for your enemy to be able to fight back. So Zeus is very straightforward. Zeus is all about the infantry, about myth units and heroes. The 1-2-3 combo, you stick to that for the most part. Zeus will be very easy for you to pick up and learn and to do very well with. He is not the type of god that's going to want you to sit back, build walls, and boom your economy. If you want that kind of play style, you can click on this video here, which will show you how to play Isis from the Egyptians. As always, stay caffeinated, folks.